Hey there, and welcome to my beginner's guide and review for Defend the Rook. I'm Icon, and this video will guide you through the basic gameplay. I'm going to explain the game mechanics. I'm also going to give you a review and a summary about what I personally think about this game. So, Defend the Rook is a hybrid between a turn-based combat game. There's also a turret building and wave defense mechanism included, and it has roguelite mechanisms with resets and slow progression of upgrades and variety, which brings in a cool mix, which I really enjoyed a lot. Your base game goal is to defend the rook, as the name implies. When you lose this unit, you die. You also have to work or get to work with your personal heroes here. In this first scenario, a warrior, a sorceress, and a rogue. And you also can place down turrets. Down here you have your armament. They go on these little displays, pedestals, whatever. And also you have an armament of direct spells, which you can use to influence the outcome of the combat. Now, when we look at all these things, it's pretty simply explained. The enemy will try to get towards our rook and destroy it. You see the yellow number here displays the amount of damage the unit can make or do per turn. You also see the heart here implying the amount of HP it can suffer before it dies. Beyond that, when we left click one of these units, we see here the blue number here depicting the movement, this number depicting the attack range, and this number depicting the armor. Armor will always absorb damage before it reaches the HP, and armor is also pretty important to note that it will always replenish at the beginning of your next turn. So basically, if my warrior only takes 5 points of damage, the next turn he will be back on 8 armor and have suffered no damage at all. That's why high armor people can suffer a lot of beating, and that's how the game handles it. Also, there's a metrical ton of effects in this game. Whenever you want to know what a unit can do, you left click it, and down here you see the effects that the unit is benefiting from or suffering from. So we see here the warrior gives our heroes and contraptions temporary armor when standing right next to them. The sorceress gains armor if she doesn't move. And these are only the base traits. So let's get started. As you see here, the blue squares depicting the movement and the red squares depicting the range of attack. We can't really reach any of these orcs or anything, so let's move the rook itself. As you can see here, your rook is also capable of fighting, and we'll just place down some towers here. We got an arcane tower, medium range, medium damage. We got the cannon tower, high range, low damage, or yeah, well, pretty low damage. You see it's only 4 points of damage. And of course, emerald tower, last number, higher damage, low range, as you might have already noticed. So you don't need to place down these things all at once. You can pretty much decide for yourself. We also got traps, pretty self-explanatory, but the tooltip tells you what the freeze trap would do. And there's also barricades, which we can set up, which will taunt the enemy at the end of the turn. The goal here is to survive a full length of 5 turns. So let's end the turn and see what will happen. In the 5th wave, you will have to face a boss, which then will bring you the victory over this level there. There's every time you finish all the 5 waves, you progress another level. And after every wave here, you gain an upgrade for your heroes. And that's where the game really goes places, and I love it. So we now get to decide what kind of upgrade. Only 1 upgrade per wave, and 1 per hero. So we can now either get armor for each barricade in play. So basically our warrior will benefit whenever there's these thingies in combat. Street Fighter, power when attacking an unarmored enemy, so translates to more damage to enemies without armor. Or temporary armor when the sorceress destroys an enemy. We're going to take the Barrel Master because I find that fun. There we go. So now at the end of this one, you get a free turn where you can move your people around, and I highly recommend you to do so. And then we end the turn, and then we see where the next wave is spawning. These red marks here depicting the entry points. And now we can move our units again. So you can prepare yourself for the onslaught. You never know from which direction the enemy will come ultimately. You can also use your spells. So we got here, remove a block tile and replace it with a trap that deals 3 damage. Reduce enemies' armor, increase or deal direct damage. These spells are all for the 5 waves you have to last. So all the tools down here are your things you get to use until the end of this specific level. So now we're going to take down these baddies. And here's another thing. You can check out this orc here. The red stuff here is depicting how far he can move. And when you mouse over him, you can also see how far he will be able to attack. Here's one thing. Damage lasts between waves. So if I put my thief here in front of that dude, he will suffer quite some damage. So instead, we're going to set up a freeze trap. Let's do this. And see what'll happen. Enemy steps on it and gets stunned because that's what freeze traps do. So these tools down here give you some opportunities to react flexibly and smart onto oh, there's another enemy up there, on varying opportunities, and I really like that. This is a nice dynamic going on there. So new upgrade, and here's a thing about this game that I really like, and it's also worth mentioning. You can totally specialize on a single hero, or you can spread the upgrades on different heroes. Here you can really strategize, and every upgrade you pick here persists through the whole run. So when all the upgrades we pick now will be transferred into level 2, 3, 4, and 5, and so on and so forth. So we're starting to define a build on every hero, which is pretty cool. So now we're going to take the kinetic transfer. When a rogue moves through a hero or contraption, it gains temporary armor. So this is a pretty cool skill and also worth showcasing because it's pretty nifty. So we can, for example, set up a barricade here and watch our warrior's HP go up. And now if we move through that, zap, armor. Pretty cool stuff. So now we know how our enemies will arrive. Let's spread out a bit so we're not going to get ambushed that hard. And here we go. So here's a big orc horde. Also, one thing, your enemies can have traits and skills too. As you see here, the goblin archer has an icon down here, and he's elusive. He's going to prioritize attacking at the furthest distance possible. It's really worth checking out these lines of all your enemies in between, because, you know, they all have kind of like their own perks. So we're now going to place down the Emerald Tower here, just to have some fun. And a Decimate spell on this one, so you can see. It replaces the obstacle with a trap. A pretty small and weak one, but nevertheless a trap. The idea behind these things is that, for example, the rogue can learn skills that allow him to gain power the more traps there are in game. So creating extra traps at some points might be quite interesting and beneficial for this class, and so on and so forth. So we're going to place down another trap here, because I don't want my people to get hurt too much, and let's end the turn. And this is pretty much where your core gameplay is living at. This is how everything plays out, and you see, every killed enemy yields gold and experience. What do we do with those? Gold goes into the upgrades of your towers. You see, after every level, you get to upgrade your towers or your contraptions, so you can upgrade, for example, also your barrels to have more HP, and there's a lot of other things. We're going to get into that in a couple of minutes. So here's another thing. You might notice there's a different color. There's also a rarity tier between the upgrades here. So when hit by an enemy in your attack range, attacking back. This is a direct counter-attack thing. Here, our rogue gains power for each armed trap on the field. Let's take that because I like this. So the Trap Master really allows you to utilize these things in a way that you actually want to place traps, probably in a manner that they don't even get triggered. And that's something I do like, because this allows you to redefine the usage of your resources. And that's where I think the developers of this game do a pretty decent job. But I'm already getting into the review part here over head over heels. So I'm going to fast forward here now into the boss wave, because you see there's not that much difference between what will happen now. We're just going to get into wave 5. And here goes the boss wave. So we now see a pretty similar thing, but as you might already have noticed, there is one tile looking a little bit differently. And that's where our boss will appear. So with bosses, it's always worth checking them out. They always come with some certain mechanic and some certain difference. So this dude here, Azash, is, for example, gaining power for each turn that he's in the combat. And bosses also have certain immunities, especially stuns and such. That's just to avoid cheesing out enemies like crazy. I do understand why the devs did implement that. So we're now going to put up a little bit of a barricade in front of Azash, because I want to decimate his minions a little bit before I go into direct combat. Maybe he'll attack my warrior, but wait. You can also press space when you're done with your allocation. And now we're going to... oh, well, let's just wait it out for now. You can see here, barricade did the trick. Rogue is getting a lot of damage. By the way, if a unit of yours dies during the course of the combat, it is unavailable for the rest of the level, basically. You don't lose them forever or something like that. You just will have to wait until the 5th wave is beaten to get your unit back. Every boss battle is a little bit different and follows certain rules, so you'll have to check out what you need to take care of. In this particular scenario, Azash's only trait is that he's growing stronger every round. He is meant to be your beginner's problem, so that's okay. I guess he'll kill my rogue now because he's pretty low, but that's okay. Like I mentioned before, it doesn't really give you any disadvantages. Alright, every boss wave. When the boss dies, all the minions die. You don't need to kill all the minions. You can burn down the boss as well. Also, you'll gain a guaranteed epic upgrade. So these are the strongest upgrades for your heroes, and ironically, you can again pick only one, but these are really crazy. So the first time sorcerers kill 6 enemies in a battle, gain power, plus 6 power until the end of the battle. This is, as far as I understand it, an entire level, or the first time another allied hero would take health damage, move the warrior as close as a guardian thing, and grapple. Standing next to a cannon tower at the start of their turn, they will teleport back to their previous position after they attack. That's this turn. So basically, you can return back to your tower and avoid getting damaged that much. So these upgrades really alter the way you play your characters by a lot. Skipping the story, because, you know, you can play the demo or buy it yourself if you want to enjoy the story. So the next level here is the graveyard, and you can see there's 5 levels in total, and you get a informational thing here about the next boss, strengths and weaknesses, also his trait. And now here we can level up our heroes. So level ups are paid with experience, and you see here the costs and the possible upgrades. These are mutually exclusive, so you either take light load or shared armor, and so on and so forth. Every hero has an insanely powerful upgrade at the bottom of his tree. These are really, really, really massive. You can't put it into different words. So for example, here, Sorceress attacks hit all enemies in range. She does suffer from a little bit less range, but geez. You can also pick upgrades along the way to increase her range, and lots of things possible. Also, these upgrades here are going to last for the rest of the run again. Also keep in mind there's the shop again. So here we can upgrade our contraptions. So here you see the gold cost, and here's the nodes. First goes max health, and then there's some extra upgrades here for your rook, for your towers, for your contraptions, and so on and so forth. The really interesting part here is that these upgrades also are randomized every run. So you'd never know which kind of end node you will have during a run. Last run I played, for example, I had a upgrade here to put down another of these turrets at the end of this road. So this is where you can put in your money. Again, it's up to you whether to specialize or spread. Here's where you can strategize, and there's a lot of fun in that. So we're now going to enter the next battle. As you can see here, there's a preview of the bosses. These bosses also are kind of randomized. The vampire boss here is not every time there. And now we're going to get into the option menu and surrender here, because I want to give you a opportunity to see the whole meta progression thing. So every time you lose the game, you reset and drop out of the game. Every completed level yields a gemstone. Gemstones can be used to pay all manner of different permanent upgrades. So unlock upgrades for your heroes. Unlock alternatives to your barricade. Unlock additional spell packs to choose from. Unlock extra heroes. Unlock extra mines, other traps. Unlock extra turrets, and so on and so forth. Really cool stuff. I'll show you how it looks like. So here you see your wizard's den, or however you want to call it. Here's the unit loadout. When you click on any of these pieces here, the warrior can be replaced by the samurai, or the barbarian, or the elven commander. So the samurai is unlocked by upgrades, and the barbarian and the elven commander are unlocked by ascensions. Ascensions are, you might have already guessed it, higher difficulty levels. So whenever you beat the game, you unlock the next ascension level. And here we also unlock cool stuff. And it's something for every friggin' slot there. And you see there's 3 variants for every tile. And for every, or well, 2 for the rook. Some variants for these things. These have only 2. But you already can see there's a lot of different things to play with. The towers unlock via these gem upgrades, but also via Ascension 1. When you check it out, all the extra towers get unlocked via Ascension 1. So basically, once you hit Ascension 1, you'll unlock the full potential of the towers in Basic. Okay, so beyond that, you can also pick a spell loadout for every run. I unlocked that already via the gemstones. These are also completely randomized. There's always different spells every run, or different spell packs. You get to pick one of those. There's always different spells in those. And yeah, last but not least, let's recheck this for a moment. There's, of course, other features here. For example, a loot courier will appear in battles. So there's even a couple of little features in it that you haven't seen yet. Here, new spells to unlock. So there's really a lot of content to find and discover in this game. Okay, guide ends here. Review starts here. What do I think about this one? I had Defend the Rook on my view list for quite a time, and I was really looking forward to its release. I gotta admit, I was kind of stumped about the visuals. I don't really like the graphic style too much. Personal my opinion here, but oh my god, the gameplay really charmed and intrigued me right away, because this game provides a lot more than I anticipated that it would provide. The gameplay is very slick. It plays really smooth, so you really don't have to worry too much. It's one of those perfect examples for a easy to pick up but difficult to master game. It's really easy to do your shtick here, but getting a proper build on your characters, knowing when to prefer what, felling the decisions whether to specialize in a single unit, in which tower, and so on and so forth. There's so much variance happening during one run. So basically, a couple of upgrades on one hero might influence your contraption upgrades by a lot. For example, the rogue can interact crazily with towers, so but mostly with cannon towers. So you might end up with focusing into cannon tower upgrades because your rogue happened to draw these upgrades. And you see, that's where I think a lovely gameplay exists, where it's not like every run feels like the same old chore, which a couple of games do. So really, really big plus on that side. What I personally also do appreciate is the fact that you get to play a little bit of a tower defense experience here. I personally love tower defense games a lot, you know. I always did and I always will. And therefore it's a pretty unique take onto the genre. I mean, I personally was like, when I read the title, after Slay the Spire comes Defend the Rook, will it actually be a good game? But I was positively surprised. This one is way better than I actually anticipated. I was already interested when I saw the outlook, so it really trumped my expectations. Another upside about this game, it's dirty cheap. Honestly, it's really not. It really doesn't cost much money. Downsides so far that I can say, I don't like roguelite systems. Okay, I'm personally a guy. I love to have all the pieces available at once, and I don't like to have to unlock everything. I would be totally down with the Ascension system and providing me more and more difficult challenges and giving me the option to play with whatever units I'd like. Because there's so much to discover with the upgrades and whatnot that I wouldn't be minding at all to dig through all that. This way, the roguelite system forces me to play in a with units I probably don't want to play. You know, if you happen to hate all the 3 starting characters, which could happen, you know, it could be, you'd have a pretty shitty experience until the time being. But that's me personally about roguelite systems. I know that this is a necessary evil, you know, people love progression and such things, but this is honestly one of the few things that I can talk bad about this one, you know. There's a lot of good stuff going on there. I don't really know how far the difficulty level scales at this point, you know, it's a beginner's guide after all. So the interesting part is to conceive how interesting the late game is. Can't tell anything about that yet, but it's definitely there. Okay, so that sums it up. I don't really have more to say about this one except for it's worth your money. It's easy to pick up, it's difficult to master, and it plays really good. It's very well optimized, smooth, and yeah, you just have to look beyond the voxel graphics. I personally don't like them too much, but there's always something to nitpick about. So drop your comments down below, let me know what you think. If you also think that there's something to mention here, just drop it into the comments. Leave a thumbs up on that video if you enjoyed, and also consider subscribing to my channel. There's daily content popping up there. All you need to do is to hit the notification bell and you won't miss anything in the future. Last but not least, check also the description box out. There's more than that below there. There's also my Twitch channel where I do daily streams, a Discord channel of mine where you can find fellow-minded gamers, and last but not least, there are also links for a direct support of my video project. I'd be delighted if you check them out. Whatever might be the case, I wish you a wonderful day and see you soon. Bye-bye.